Hello and welcome. Chris from Missouri here, bringing you another video about vintage baseball cards. In this video, I will show you some cards and hang on with me because I have some really cool stuff. At least I think they're cool to show you. But really, what I'm doing today is I'm making a confession, and I liken it to this story here. See, when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, growing up, I lived across the street from a man named Jim that is a retired Air Force member. And he seemed old, real old at the time, pretty old at the time, but I had a friend that lived across from me as well named Greg, who was my age, and Greg and I played and did a lot of stuff growing up together. You know what young preteens do growing up and stuff. But when we were about 10, Jim had got permission from our parents to take us fishing, and it started a tradition that we did a few different times in the summer. Greg and I and Jim, that lasted 3 or 4 years, 5 years, until we got old enough to drive and other things were more important. But Jim would get us and he'd talk to us about going fishing. And then so we'd pick a date, and let's say we picked a Saturday. Well, that Monday, Greg would get his tackle box out and I'd get my tackle box out, and we'd take them over and sit in front of Jim's lawn chair, and we'd clean out our tackle boxes and get them all organized. And then we would get our fishing poles and make sure that they had enough line in them to last, just in case we got hung up and different things, and make sure the reel worked, and grease them down and just get all prepared to go. And then we'd make a list, let's say on a Wednesday, and we'd start gathering things that we needed to go on our big fishing trip on Saturday. And then on let's say Thursday, or let's say Friday, we would go tie on weights to our fishing rod and reel, and we'd cast and just make sure everything worked there. And then we were supposed to go to bed early on Friday. And the very first time I was eager to go and stuff. But then after that first time, we would keep doing this. We'd do the same thing. Prepare our tackle boxes, make sure that we had a checklist that had our food that we were taking. We did that every time, whether we did the first time, second time, we were consistent about it. But after we went that first time, when we were preparing to go for our next trip, and it became a week before, I couldn't sleep. I had this reoccurring, and it was not a dream because it happened right when I closed my eyes every time as a little kid. And see if you guys can relate to this. If this happened to you, if you went fishing or different things. See, we would fish for crappie and bluegill, and we'd throw out a cork, and when that fish would bite our bait, that cork would go underwater. Well, preparing to go on our fishing trip, every time I closed my eyes, I saw that cork go underwater. Boom, there goes a cork. Close it again, there goes another cork, there goes another cork. And I know I was anxious and eager to get out and go fishing. And we would talk during the week. How many fish are we going to catch? Greg and I were. And I hope we can catch as much as we did last time, or are you going to fish this spot or this spot? And it just was our conversation. And it was just a kid thing to do. Well, I'm feeling like a kid right now. See, we're 3 weeks away from the National, and I can't stop thinking about it. I had to come down to my card room today to look at cards to kind of clear my mind from going to the National, because every time I shut my eyes, or every time I'm driving at a long distance and thinking about it, all I'm doing is I close my eyes and I see the the blue sign, the National Card Collectors Convention, and and then I close my eyes and I see tables of cards, and so I'm anxious and excited, and just like going fishing, I've already made it to the point that I've made a list, and I got my backpack all cleaned up and ready to go, and I'm making a list now of what I'm going to bring, and then now I'm kind of narrowing down my pickup list, and it's bringing back memories of how I felt going fishing, and that's kind of how I feel now going to any card show that I go to. I'm this excited and this worked up, and this is what this hobby is allowing me to do again, and allowing me to feel things, and I'm thinking about things other than work problems and or anything like that, and it is fun. It is fun. So let me know. I'm going to show you some cards that I'm going after, types of these cards. So I'm going to take my time and show them to you, so you can enjoy them as much as me. And I'll be doing another video when it gets closer to the National. I've already done one. You're going to be seeing tons of them, but people are making plans. My YouTube buddies, I'm making plans with them like I'm making plans with with Greg and Jim back in the day. And let me know if you had that same dream about the cork going under. So let me turn this around. I'm not really telling you exactly what's on my list yet, because I don't know. That list isn't finished, but I have created it where I'm going after player runs. There's a few players that I'm going after, so I'm writing out the stuff of the cards I don't have, and then I made a list of about 15 of the 300 great cards by Mike Payne that I'm searching for, and then I got a list of big cards, and then I got a list that says cards that I run into. So some of these first cards that I'm showing you, if I run into a strip card of a Hall of Famer that I don't have, I might go after it. That's what I mean by running in. I'm placing this Ty Cobb in the holder that Drew has made. Now, Drew, the Vintage Legacy, has made these holders, and if you email him ahead of time, he can bring some to the National that you can buy. So if I run into some 1952 Wheaties cards that are baseball players, I might go after that as well. So another thing that it's not going to be on my list, but if I run into a few of the exhibit cards that I don't have, I may pick that up as well. Also, it's not on my list, but if I run into these Hassan cards, then the cigarette cards here, it might become on my list too, especially if it's a Hall of Famer. And one that might be a big card on my list, it's not on my list right now, but I'm thinking about putting it on there, is the Ty Cobb of that year. Now, I know a few of these cards will be on my list, but as far as big cards go, but if I run into some Hall of Famers, this is a 1939 play ball Bobby Doerr. And this is a 1939 Joe DiMaggio. Now, I love that card, but if I run into a big card that might be on my list is the Ted Williams of that year, 1939. Now, the 1940s, here's what they look like. Pete Alexander, Christy Mathewson. I have a Ted Williams of that year. Look at that card. This mark right here is on the plastic itself. I should get new plastic. But if I'm going to put the 40 play ball Joe DiMaggio on my big card list. Now the 41, they look like this. They look like the 40s, but in color. Here's a Hank Greenberg. But if I run into some Hall of Famers, I might try to pick those up as well. Here's the Pee Wee Reese. Now I have the Ted Williams. But the Joe DiMaggio is going to be a big card that I put on my list. And then if I run into any of these cards, I'm gonna pick it up. But the Ted Williams, there's two Ted Williams that year. That was a 1941. That's a 1941 double play. But if I run into the Ted Williams or a Joe DiMaggio, that's on my list. Any Hall of Famers that I run into that's not on my list, there's a chance that I'll pick them up. Now, I don't know what the big card is going to be, because if I find one in a lower grade that fits in my collection, I'm going to pick it up, and so it might make it not so big a card. For instance, if I find a 49 leaf Babe Ruth, that's a big card. But if I find one in a lower grade, that's not such a big card. But if I try to get one and it's a 5, that's a huge card to me. And I have a few of those, like the 1950 Bowman Jackie Robinson is going to be on my list. Now, I would like that one in a lower grade, but pleasant to look at if I can work it out, because most of the Jackie Robinsons that I have in my collection are lower grade. Again, I said the 41 DiMaggio and a 39 Ted Williams, but a big card besides the leaf Ruth is the green Cobb. I'm looking for, it's going to have to be lower grade, but I'm looking for a green Cobb, a T206. I'm looking for a gold Borders Cobb as well. So far, it's still on my list. I haven't taken it off. Then I'm also looking for Hassan Cobb. I haven't taken it off my list yet. I'm looking for 48 leaf Dobie. I haven't narrowed the list down, but a lot like going fishing when I was 12 years old and 11 years old, I'm putting my list together. A lot like going fishing when I was that young. I'm prepping my stuff. A lot like going fishing. I've been talking to my buddies what I'm going after and what I'm going to do. I love it that this hobby is turning me into a 12-year-old kid again, making me think of stuff, in a good way. And I hope you guys get a chance to go to the National. If you can't do it this year, I hope you go sometime. But I hope you act like I do when you go to a regular card show. I hope you have that excitement. It's okay. We're collecting baseball cards, man. It's okay to be immature in some of your feelings, and it's okay to show some excitement when you pick up a card. You don't have to be Mr. Cool. This is not real life problems right now. This is fun. So I'm enjoying my time. I really appreciate you guys watching the video. Comment down below if you've experienced some thoughts like the court going under. And remember, guys, it is just a hobby. Collect what you like.